Now to take a look at today's weather. The temperature will reach a high of 29 degrees Celsius with an evening low of 23 degrees. Winds will blow from the east to northeast to east at 12 to 21 miles per hour on land, reaching 28 miles per hour over open waters. Seas are moderate with waves reaching 1.8 meters or 6 feet. Small craft operators should exercise caution. Skies will be partly sunny with brief cloudy intervals and passing showers. Tonight, conditions will be partly cloudy with brief cloudy spells and scattered showers. The weather brings us to the end of ZIZ's midday newscast for today, Wednesday. Join us this evening for the details to these stories and more. Thanks for tuning in. I am JD Keynes. Have a great day. These are this afternoon's top stories. Businesses expected to comply with VAT removal announcement. In Guyana, a man has been charged with murder and dismembering a middle-aged woman. And a white police officer in South Carolina has been charged for murdering an unarmed black man. Good afternoon and welcome to ZIZ's Midday Newscast. Today is Wednesday, April 8th, 2015. I am JD Keynes. In our national developments, suppliers of food and medicine as well as other service providers whose products are now exempted from value-added tax VAT are expected to comply with the government's policy to have VAT removed as there is no loss to them. This was the word on Tuesday from Deputy Comptroller of the Inland Revenue Department and Nevis, Neva Manners Lemonta, who added that the new VAT policy should lead to a drop in food prices.
One thing I can say for certain is that we expect to see a drop in the overall price of the food items. However, I must also add that the cost of the product for the business will be reduced as there is no VAT charged at the point of entry. However, in order for an accurate assertion to be made as to whether or not there are any losses or disadvantage, a thorough assessment would have to be made after some time and then an update be provided at a later date.
The country's tourism minister and representative for Constituency 4, the Honorable Lindsay Grant, has joined his Team Unity colleagues in updating constituents on his work since assuming office. Tonight, Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., Minister Grant will host his next town hall meeting at the Old Road Methodist Church Hall. This meeting follows the first in a series which was held on Tuesday night at the Challengers Community Center. A press release from Team Unity says Minister Grant will use the opportunity to give a report of his stewardship over the last 6 weeks and will also highlight the progress of plans for the development of Old Road and the other communities of Constituency Number 4. We'll have more for you on last night's meeting in our major newscast this evening. Israel's ambassador to St. Kitts and Nevis and the Caribbean, His Excellency Mordechai Amihai Beavers, says the Jewish community which exists on Nevis will help in building better bilateral relations between Israel and the Federation. The ambassador's comment came when he paid a courtesy call on the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Vance Amory, at his Bathplain office on Monday. The ambassador described his tour of duty to the Caribbean as a mission of importance. He said there is a great deal of friendship among Caribbean nations towards Israel, and it is a good foundation on which they can further develop relations and look for some practical ways to further enhance and strengthen them. After welcoming the ambassador to Nevis, Premier Amory reported that they discussed the Jewish community on the island and the link which he believes exists between Nevis and St. Kitts and Israel through that community. The Premier noted that he is aware Israel does not have any business or interest in Nevis, but expressed the view that because Nevis has a tourism-based economy, it is important to explore the connection between the islands. Regionally, the Ministry of Health in St. Lucia joined the global community in marking World Health Day on April 7th under the theme Food Safety from Mouth to Plate. The theme seeks to raise awareness and promote preventive action throughout the food chain to combat the issue of food and waterborne illnesses affecting millions annually.
Become increasingly globalized, the need to strengthen food safety systems in and between all countries is more pertinent. This World Health Day, the World Health Organization is promoting food safety from the farm to the plate. Given the increase in confirmed cases of gastroenteritis here, the global observance is timely. The island's chief medical officer says all licensed food establishments should meet certain food requirement standards. Dr. Merlin Fredericks says, in keeping with the theme, the Ministry of Health is supplying the public with the names of various certified organizations.
The ministry plans on publishing a list of the licensed food establishments. We may not have the legislative authority right now to publish the non-licensed ones, but certainly we think it would be important so that the public can know that they're being assured of some form of, service and quality when they go to those places. But we also encourage persons to be aware. When you go into a food establishment, look for the public health license. The public health license should be displayed in a place that's easily visible.
Dr. Fredericks encourages people to purchase locally grown foods.
The dasheen and the yam, the banana, plantain, the locally produced poultry or chicken, all of those foods are healthier, and if we consume them in the appropriate amounts, they can actually protect us from developing non-communicable diseases like diabetes and hypertension and the like. When we think of farm, we're also thinking of the process used to actually produce and grow the foods. And the Ministry of Health is encouraging persons as much as possible to go into organic farming.
The CMO says the process of transporting the food from the farm to supermarkets for sale is also very important, as food can be contaminated along the way if not kept at the right temperature. She says people must also be careful and take every precaution when preparing foods.
Statistics actually show that the majority of foodborne illnesses or contamination of food happens during preparation of the food. Raw foods which are eaten raw like lettuce and tomatoes, etc., should not be prepared in the same place or whilst we're also dealing with raw meat or poultry, because the raw food, the food that we eat raw, can actually be contaminated by all of these, things that come from the meat, etc.
Globally, over 582 million people fall ill and more than 350,000 die annually from foodborne illnesses. Jade Brown, HTS News Force.
In Guyana, a young man has been charged with the murder of an American citizen. The woman's body was found dismembered and dumped at the seawall last month. More in this Capital News report.
The young man showed no emotion when the indictable charge of murder was read to him by Magistrate Zamina Ali Sipal in the Sparana Magistrate Court this afternoon. According to the police report, Imran Ramsawak and others murdered U.S. citizen Samantha Benjamin at a house in Buxton on the east coast of Demerara. Her dismembered body was found at the foreshore of the Annandale seawall. Her hands, head and feet were all missing. Ramsawak was the caretaker for the woman's home. He was arrested after persons in the area observed the suspicious movements. He was remanded to prison until May 4th. The matter was transferred to the Vigilance Magistrate Court.
Internationally, a white South Carolina police officer was charged with murder on Tuesday, hours after law enforcement officials viewed a dramatic video that appears to show him shooting a fleeing black man several times in the back.
The video is graphic, recorded on a cell phone as a white police officer opens fire on a black man. It happened Saturday in North Charleston, South Carolina. 50-year-old Walter Scott was killed. Officer Michael Slager now charged with murder.
We can't get my brother back, and my family is in deep mourning for that. But through the process of justice has been served.
Authorities initially said Scott was shot after trying to grab the officer's stun gun. North Charleston's mayor now says the pictures tell another story.
When you're wrong, you're wrong. And if you make a bad decision, don't care if you're behind the shield or just a citizen on the street, you have to live by that decision.
If convicted, Michael Slager could face 30 years to life in prison. Sandy Kozel, The Associated Press.
Voters in Sudan are heading to polls on Monday for the presidential and parliamentary elections, which opposition parties have threatened to boycott. The ruling party says it has pulled the economy out of a tailspin after the South's secession. But most of the population, almost half of whom live below the poverty line, is mainly concerned with putting food on the table, with the overall inflation rate at 23%.
If there's oil to cook in the Maher house, it means a hearty stew for dinner and a satisfied family. But with frequent shortages of cooking gas and bread, and inflation at 37%, the family says daily living in Sudan is tough.
Everyone leaves. They're building their children's future. When the day here is finished, it's an accomplishment. I tell my husband all the time he should go and work abroad.
Suleiman works as a teacher by day and a rickshaw driver at night to support his wife and 2 girls. In a country with an 18% unemployment rate and almost half the population living below the poverty line, he's lucky to have steady income. The secession of South Sudan in 2011 hit Sudan's economy hard. It had been booming. Sudan lost 75% of its oil revenue and has been struggling to rebound ever since. The government says it has compensated for the lost revenue primarily through the expansion of gold mining. Agriculture is now the country's primary source of income. The government says it has provided loans and machinery to farmers to increase crop production.
Failure to optimize land and water, weak training for farmers, a lack of technology and financing are all reasons why resources were not used properly.
The government also blames U.S. sanctions for stifling the economy. Suleiman says he doesn't believe next week's presidential election will bring much change.
I look at our situation and I think to myself, I have no reason to believe that tomorrow will be any better.
But he can't bear to leave his family and move abroad. If his wife has her way, he will one day build a future outside Sudan. Natasha Ghanem.